Howdy, y'all. Banjo Ben here. Today I'm at the general store with my buddy Jake, and we're going to teach you a mandolin lesson, but we're going to use both the mandolin and guitar because today we're talking about mandolin rhythm from a guitar player's perspective.
Yes.
Right?
Yeah.
So you're playing the guitar player in this skit.
I'm pretending to be.
You're pretending to be. And what I want to find out from you is like what you most prefer as a great, bluegrass guitar player. What do you most prefer to hear and feel from a mandolin player?
Yeah, absolutely.
So we're going to talk about different tempos and what to do whenever you're soloing versus when you're not. Mm-hmm. What other kind of things do you want to talk about?
Yeah, things like that. Also, like how the chop should maybe sound at a slower tempo versus a more upbeat.
Yeah.
With a slower tempo, you have more room for those big chordal, full, fat chops.
Yeah.
And at a quicker tempo, you might want to be lighter and snappier to, keep the timing, to keep things cleaner and less cluttered.
Yeah.
So,
which can be counterintuitive at times. It's really just learning how to listen to as a mandolin player.
Uh-huh.
And then I think even most importantly, we'll talk about what not to do. Mm-hmm. What people maybe have a tendency to do in their mandolin rhythm that's not really helpful.
Right.
So if you're watching here at banjobenclark.com as a Gold Pick member, you've got access to this full lesson. If you're watching somewhere else like YouTube or wherever else that may be, I'd be honored to have you on board. As a Gold Pick member, you can access this full lesson and hundreds more like it for banjo, guitar, and mandolin. Hey, Jake, it might be fun to just start out with what not to do as a mandolin player. Yeah. You and I were discussing this before we began recording as we were kind of conceiving this lesson. And you mentioned hearing like beginner mandolin students, and when you go around to camps and stuff like that, hearing some tendencies of mandolin players in their rhythm that's ultimately not helpful.
Right.
And I was thinking, one of the reasons why people may do some of those things is because they may come from a guitar background. Mm-hmm. So they're used to playing guitar rhythm.
Yeah. Even if they don't come from a guitar background, they're probably more used to hearing that.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? They haven't really learned to tune their ear into what a mandolin does in a bluegrass context.
Yeah. So before we get into the detail of like what not to do, let's talk about what the role of the mandolin is, playing as far as rhythm goes. So from a guitar player's perspective, how would you define that?
Well, the probably the simplest answer is the most correct one most of the time in this scenario, and it's simply the backbeat. Mm-hmm. It's the and for me it's the rhythm, and it's a texture to the band, or even in a two-person situation. It's the mandolin is, to me. A lot of people credit this to the bass, and the bass is important too in this role, but to me, the mandolin is the most important element for timing. It is your metronome in essence,
And so when you say the backbeat, I guess theoretically we're talking about if there's a 4-beat measure, the mandolin's going to cover primarily those beats 2 and 4.
Right.
So let's just demonstrate that. Give me just a straight ahead bluegrass rhythm, and I'll just demonstrate what we're talking about. Backbeat.
So
if we were to count that 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2. That's what's known as the backbeat, is at 2 and 4.
2 and 4, right?
Yeah, which coincides with whenever you're doing your strum.
Yeah,
right.
And that sounds great together. Like it's complementary and it's not conflicting.
Right.
Now let's do the same thing just for demonstration purposes. This time you play guitar rhythm on your mandolin while I play guitar rhythm on my guitar.
Okay. All right. Yeah. 1, 2, ready, go. Okay.
Yeah, it's not that that's not musical. It's just not bluegrass, right?
Yeah, that's a great point because
Yeah.
we're going after a certain sound.
Right.
And there may be little bits and pieces of time in our songs that we play where we might end up doing something like that together. We'll talk about that.
Definitely is.
Swells. Things like that where we want to fill up. We're going to talk about energy in this as it relates to bluegrass. And we'll get into that. But I think going back to what not to do is a lot of mandolin players want to bring in too much busyness.
Yeah.
They want to bring in more information than really what the mandolin is considered to do in bluegrass.
And it's kind of counterintuitive too, because a lot of people, when they do that, their initial thinking, I think, is that, well, just focusing so much on the backbeat is so boring and monotonous. But what they don't realize is by doing a repetitive guitar strum, it's way more monotonous in context than just the backbeat would be.
Yeah.
You know, the backbeat is clean and understated enough where it just fills right in perfectly and keeps the tempo in check.
Yep.
And adds that kind of that snare texture, right?
Yeah, that's really what we're mimicking in more of a country band scenario. This mandolin's the snare drum on beats 2 and 4.
Yes.
Right? And the big bass is the kick drum. And you're playing both roles.
Yeah,
You're
the guitar is kind of
information.
going between those in a way, and the guitar is really the voice, the voicing of the chords. It's while the mandolin can certainly lend to chordal information, you know, the voice of the chord, you know, like where you hear the blend of the 3 tones of a major chord or a minor chord or a 7, and you can certainly have moments where you highlight that on the mandolin. That's really not its role. It gets in the way sometimes of the guitar if there's too much voice going on.
Yeah.
You know,
So a couple weeks ago, I had my oldest daughter Charlie Bell play some mandolin for me, and she's just getting into mandolin. And what I was needing most from her in this particular scenario was the rhythmic aspect of the mandolin. And she was worried about being able to make all the big chords. I said, don't worry about that.
Yeah.
Here's what I want you to do. Grab the mandolin like this, and I want you to give me 2 and 4.
Yeah.
That's all I want. And she goes, I remember her saying, Dad, is that all?
Yeah.
I'm like, no, that's perfect.
Yeah.
That's perfect. That's all I need. Because I'm providing everything else.
Yeah.
You know, with the guitar, I'm boom, check, boom, boom, boom.
Right.
And I'm just wanting. So I think those of you that are even just starting mandolin, that there's something to be said for just forgetting about the chord information for now.
Yeah, even just real quick.
Locking in.
Yeah, real quick, if we could demonstrate that, let's do the same. You just focus on backbeat with the chord voicing, and you can see how with the overwhelming chordal voice of the guitar, maybe do a few measures of you're playing the chords with me, but just in the backbeat, and then announce when you just go to a completely dead chop.
Okay.
And see if there's that much, like, as far as perceived difference to the listener, and there really isn't a huge.
Yeah, and so to to clarify what you're talking about, there's all kinds of different chops that we can offer.
Yeah.
Right. So I can give you more or less chord information, not only with what actual chord positions I'm playing, but how I leave my fingers down. All kinds of different approaches here. We were talking just a while ago. I was listening to Adam Steffi, and he gives you almost no chord information. It's chop.
Yeah.
It is just you're just hearing the strings for the most part.
Right.
Whereas more like a Ricky Skaggs, you hear more like this.
Yeah.
Right, where you're getting a ringing of the chords. And I have lessons on the site talking about those things. But that's what I'm going to start out giving you is more of a chord chop, and then I'll go into more of a Steffi, just snare drum pop.
Yeah, right.
Right? Go ahead. And that sounds nice.
That's great.
It's reinforcing what chord's wrong. And now I'll just go to just the strings. Kind of starts sounding more bluegrassy to me.
It's sort of, yeah. It's
You know,
it's more snappy.
There's a snap in there, and really that brings up a great point. It's like, what do you want it to sound like?
Right.
You know, if you want more of that drivey, snappy sound, then going with less chord information on your chop would be good. But the topic of this little part of the lesson, when we said what not to do, the main message there is not to carry over too much guitar.
Right.
Even if you're chopping, I know earlier I was just strumming, but let me give you more an example of kind of what a guitar would do.
And kind of the most common one that I hear on mandolin is,
Catching the elbow.
yeah.
Yeah, things like that.
That's super monotonous.
Yeah.
Like you think you're doing more, and so it's less boring, but to me it's way more boring than just that chop that perfectly divides the beat.
Yeah, and we'll talk about in a little while if you ever do play on beats 1 and 3, right? So doing something more like this.
Yeah, that's great.
There's time and places for that. But what we don't want to do is bring in a monotonous down up strum rhythm into it.
At least not as your basic
Right. There's
fallback.
times when you're going to do
There's
it.
times when
and
you
we'll
can.
talk about that.
Yeah.
When in doubt, as a mandolin player, when in doubt, you can always go more simple
Less is more.
and less is more, and playing on beats 2 and 4, even if you don't have the chord information. If you're playing in a bluegrass setting, 1, 2, 3, 4. You are achieving the job of really what a mandolin's made to do.
Yeah.
Has been crafted to do in a rhythm setting. You know, when there's singing going on and when there's other solo, especially guitar solo, we'll talk about that.
Yeah.
Because I want to hear from your perspective. Like when you're soloing on guitar, what do you want to hear from me? I think that'd be a good place to turn. Let's do that next. So we have the mandolin chop, and we've talked about how, you know, it can vary from just the rhythmic sound of muted strings almost to more of a chord information chop, right? And that's really up to you, taste-wise, how snappy you want it to sound and such. But chops can also vary according to the groove of the song and even the tempo of the song. So I just want to kind of throw the mic to you, Jake, as far as from a guitar player's perspective. What are you kind of wanting to hear, especially when you solo?
Well, okay, yeah, when you solo, it's, you know, obviously it's a little different if I'm playing rhythm than if because typically what happens when the guitar goes from playing rhythm to soloing, there's kind of like this bottom that falls out, and there's all this space created, right? And the role of the mandolin, in my opinion, would vary there. You still want, for me personally, I want simple timing information. That's what helps me keep it together, because I'm already struggling enough.
You don't want a bunch of subdivisions.
Right, yeah. I'm already struggling enough to get through my solo. I just need someone sitting there going, okay, you can do this. You know, that's all I need. But like if it's at a slower tempo, like say something like Bury Me Beneath the Willow, you can provide that that backbeat, that solid bed for me to rest against with my solo. And since the guitar is not playing rhythm, you can also play on the 1 and the 3 with a full chord information, kind of a, you know, it sounds like woom chick, chick, that kind of thing.
So the way that, what key do you want to play that in?
I mean, we can just do an A since we're there. Yeah,
okay.
Sure.
So for instance, just from a mandolin player's perspective, when you're talking about that woom chop on beats 1 and 3, what I might consider doing, if you're doing a big 4-finger chord like this, is playing the bottom 2 pairs of strings on 1 and 2.
Yeah.
You know, not the whole thing.
Right.
And then coming back on beats 2 and 4 with more of a chop. So it sounds like this.
Right.
Right. And, or if you were doing more of an abbreviated pattern, I've got a lesson on the site called Modern Mandolin Rhythm where we look at positions like this.
Yeah, same concept, just kind of a different
Same concept, just a different voice and more of a power voice.
Yeah.
And I'm for the most part going to avoid some upstrokes, but they can be tasty here and there.
For sure, especially in this context because the guitar is not doing that.
That's
so it's not going to be too cluttered.
That's right.
Yeah.
Okay, but you're still wanting those affirmative 2s and 4s.
Yes, and that's the point.
Yeah.
It's like you can, in a slower tempo, you can fill it beautifully with big chord information on the 1s and 3s.
Yeah.
You can add sparkle with 8th note upstrokes. But the thing that I still want in my brain the most is that whack, whack, whack.
That's carrying you along.
Yeah, that has to be there. The other things can be added to it in that situation.
Let's try it. Having just started playing with you, I'm still kind of filling it out. And also, this is the very first time I've played this bourgeois mandolin, which is really, really hot mandolin.
Yeah. And the same with me on this guitar.
Yeah, but I'm still kind of figuring out how it sits, and because every mandolin I pick up will have a little different setup and a little different tone that I'm trying to find with the chop, you know.
And on a slower tempo too, you play, you know, up over the fingerboard a little more for that sweeter, warmer tone, like you were doing.
I wouldn't want.
Right.
I'm not going to give you that.
Yeah.
For bear. You know, whereas if we're.
Yeah, something quicker, you might have it snappier.
There's some overtones in there I'd want to avoid too. I'm getting a harmonic in here.
We need to put those suppressors on.
And that's why I put the harmonic suppressors back here because.
Yeah,
can
that
hear
metallic.
that.
It'll totally cut out that metallic
Yeah,
ring.
you can hear that.
Yeah.
But okay, so I gave you a little bit of chord information.
And if we want, Ben, I went rogue on that and was doing all kinds of weird timing stuff. If we want to do that again, I can just play just a straight, simple melody, and they can hear that better, probably.
Okay.
You want to try that?
Yeah, let's try that.
So, yeah. Sorry, but we've not scripted or planned this, so you just got to bear with us. Okay.
It's that whenever I'm playing slower tempo stuff like that, I'm not so much playing those 1s and 3s to provide some kind of extra information. It's more to keep me in time.
Yeah, and me too.
Yeah, when you're going slower like that, that means there's more time between the chops.
Yeah,
and it's harder to be right in the groove. If I were to just play 2 and 4, bury me, I could do it. But if I have something kind of still moving,
right.
It helps me be more in the groove. You don't even have to hit the strings to do that. You could, do. I see a lot of people doing this. Bury me.
Yeah.
Where they're kind of keeping that hand going.
They call it ghosting. You hit an imaginary ghost string.
Yeah. But the most important thing again is providing that 2 and 4. Depending on the feel of the song, can even depend or determine how quickly you come through the strings with those chops.
Oh, for sure, yeah.
Sometimes I'm not as worried about getting a crack. Even a song, it would just depend on what the rest of the band sounded like, honestly.
Yeah.
Where I'm getting more of a versus a
right.
But
and I think that's the biggest thing. Like, these are the basics, but at the end of the day, and the most fun thing about playing music is, especially playing with someone that you get to know and really gel with over time, is what in the moment is going to feel the most connected and like there's something extra special going on there, and that's where to me it really gets fun. It's like that you're communicating in the moment in an unexpected way,
right?
And
what's going through my mind when you were just playing that is I want to provide you as even and as clear of a backbeat as I can.
Yeah.
And I don't want it muddied. I don't.
Right.
Which people have a tendency to do. Some of that's fine. It's kind of tasty
in areas,
like
right.
at the end
like
of that
right
frame.
there, right.
At the end of the phrase, I might be tempted to bring out some more chord information.
Right.
But we'll talk about that in the next little segment about the energy management. Right. Now, shifting gears to something that's faster.
A little more up-tempo,
Yeah. I'm going to start, the faster we go, I'm going to pull more and more off of those beats 1 and 3.
Yeah. Perfect. Because it clutters things.
It clutters. If you're going real fast. It sounds cool to do when you're playing by yourself.
Sure.
And there's room for. That's what I want people to understand is there's room for little windows of that kind of stuff.
Right. Which is what we'll talk about in the next part too.
But just as far as your bass rhythm, so if we're doing something that quick, I'm going to just scale my rhythm back. Further and further.
Right.
So let's just play through the progression of like 9-pound hammer.
Okay.
And I'm just going to demonstrate just the 2s and 4s first.
Gotcha.
And then I may.
Do you want me to do rhythm or a solo for it?
Do rhythm one time through and then carry a solo.
Go into a solo. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. What tempo? You said it.
1, 2, 3. twos and fours. If we were playing in a full band situation where I had a bass player covering the ones and threes and a banjo player that's maybe rolling a little bit or vamping, I would definitely probably just give you a 2 and 4 like I did there.
Right.
But I have to say it was really hard for me to do that in this context.
Sure.
Because it's just me and you.
Yep.
So
there's nothing. There's no ones or threes.
Yeah, I was wanting to do more of a.
Sure. Yeah.
Just to give you a little bit of
right.
answer of what is the 1 and 3.
Yeah.
You know. So
one thing I noticed too, I think the most important thing about, because the 1 and 3, that's up for interpretation based on how stripped down our instrumentation is. But one thing I did notice you did do was your 2 and 4 was snappier.
Yeah.
It was more abbreviated.
Yep.
It wasn't as full.
Right.
You know, and that's important. That's the important part.
Yeah, because we're going at such a speed that it's got to fall right into a area. The chop can't last so long that it starts before the beat and ends way after it. It's got to be a crack.
Yeah, yeah, and it's got there's a momentum to it too. The problem that I've had, and I'm teaching my son this right now. You know, he's primarily a guitar player, but in just the last few months, he kind of switched to mandolin with his band because their mandolin player went out to work Colorado ranching for the summer. But anyway, the thing that and he's getting the hang of this, but the thing I've been drilling him on is if you're too heavy in your chop, like if there's just too much information at a faster tempo, even if you're not slowing down, it will muddy the mix to the point where naturally it will feel like it's dragging. It won't stay. And that's one of the things. You could set a metronome, you know, like obviously playing here, my tempo is very imperfect. But if we set a metronome to it and you play heavy, really saturated chops at a higher speed, even if it's perfectly with a metronome, it's going to sound clunkier and slower than if you're light and snappy. So it kind of depends on if you want that forward tip to the momentum, you know.
Yeah, that's a good point. So let me play it through one more time.
Okay.
And I'm going to, this time, act more like we're a duo.
Okay, yeah.
All right, and give a little bit more information.
Right.
You
want to do the same rhythm
same
and then, okay.
1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah. And I liked that. That sounded great. Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I'm thinking back through it, I'd probably do it a little different the more that we played. And there's something about the action of this mandolin that's I'm catching it when I'm not meaning to versus mine. So just take a few more minutes on. It feels great. There's just something about the angle's a little different. But
the biggest thing there though, like whenever I'm in the moment playing, all I'm like subconsciously, what is keeping me where I need to be is that no matter what goes on around it, as long as what you're doing around it is tasteful and not overbearing.
Right.
You know, you can have that as long as that is on the 2 and the 4.
Yeah.
The other things are subjective largely. So, you know, so whereas you expressed like, oh, I would have done that different, from my angle, from what I was able to pay attention to while I was playing, I had everything I needed to stay where I needed to be.
Okay.
You know, so.
Yeah. Let me try it again and try to do it not very good at all.
Okay.
Which shouldn't be hard for me. But what I'm going to try to do is mimic what I see a lot in students, and especially guitar players that come over to mandolin. I don't know if I'll be able to do this well. But anyway, let's try it. 1, 2, 3.
terrible.
Yeah, it's just.
I was struggling to even play because I'm having to try so hard to overcome all that noise.
Right.
And I'm not getting a solid.
Yeah, I would rather play with just a metronome click
than
that.
Or someone just going.
Yeah.
But the thing was, you weren't playing like as far as technically goes. You were in time.
Right.
It was just obnoxious.
Yeah.
Right.
It was obnoxious. and it feels like. It seems like I see a lot of mandolin players, especially when they're singing, they'll start to get kind of out of hand with what they're playing. Part of that could be because of how they practice.
Right.
And they may practice by themselves, and they're having to use their mandolin to give themselves
their voice.
Their voice, and they're treating it like a guitar.
Yeah.
And so if that's you, you know who you are, probably. Just to encourage you to even forget about the chord. And just in your band or jam scenario, just
it's a different thing. It's the difference between shooting around by yourself on a hoop at home and actually playing with a team.
Right.
It's a totally different. You're not obviously you're shooting around by yourself at home. You just shoot all you want.
Right.
You're going to do all the cool moves and just shoot half court shots. Yeah. In a game, you don't do that stuff.
Right.
Because it makes the team terrible.
Yeah. That's a good analogy there, illustration. Okay, let's talk about energy management and when you may want to break out of some of these straightforward 2s and 4s.
Yes, for sure.
Let's talk about what we might call energy management, because you made a great statement earlier when we were talking about the lesson and saying you think about energy when it comes to a bluegrass band. It's about energy conservation, energy explosion at times.
Right.
Tell us more what you mean by that.
Yeah, so the mistake a lot of, just like what we were talking about earlier, less is more, right? Mm-hmm. And the mistake a lot of new players make, I feel, is just trying to, anytime you listen to a good bluegrass band, there's an energy to it. You know what I mean? There just is. Mm-hmm. Even slower songs, you can have a 3/4 time song, a waltz, that just is punching you right in the mouth the whole time. Mm-hmm. So there's an energy to it, but I think what a lot of new players do is they'll focus on the feeling of that energy, not realizing that it's used sparingly, and then they just do it all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of like mashing. Yeah, we talk about mashing.
Some people may not know that term, but mashing is a slang term for that really driving bluegrass groove where everybody's playing on those downbeats.
Yeah, every measure you're smashing a downbeat.
It's what it is it's the they're taking the most energetic part of a song that you might play at the end of a phrase, or maybe it's coming out of a solo, and just playing the whole song like that.
Right.
And so that doesn't offer you any contour.
No, it doesn't.
No energy management. It's just
It's boring, honestly. Like, it's the most predictable thing you can do if you do it all the time. But in the right moment, it has totally the effect you want.
Yeah. Yeah. Okay. So on mandolin, what that may look like is at times playing on the downbeat of 1. Mm-hmm. We're talking about Adam Steffi earlier. He does this a lot, where he's going through a song just chopping on 2 and 4, and then when it comes into like the singing, or it comes into a solo, he'll 1, 2, 3, 4.
Yeah.
And he'll let that ring often for a whole measure. Sometimes not strumming anything else. Mm-hmm. So let's to exemplify that. Let's say that the guitar that you're kicking off 9-pound hammer. Okay. So I'm going to do that trick, which he will often do, other players, at the very kick of it. So the very first measure, ba-da-dum-bum-bum. This is a common thing to do, where you play on the downbeat 1 and let it ring through that measure, and then pick up the rhythm in measure 2 and onward.
Right.
And then when it comes into the vocal, doing the same type of thing.
Yeah.
Another thing that you'll hear me do, or I'll try to do, is at the very end of your intro, opening my chord up, meaning that I'm going to press down, and just give a chicka-chickum.
Yeah.
Okay, and I'll also try to come in singing it too. But go ahead and kick off 9-pound hammer, and I'll demonstrate some of those things.
Okay.
managed to do it there. It's, I'm wanting to hear the rest of the band with me.
Right.
Because I think whenever you do play those, what we call a diamond, where you play the chord and let it ring through the measure, that if you don't have a bass and other stuff going on, it seems a little empty.
Sure, yeah.
The effect is not as there as much as if we had a bass player and a banjo player.
Again, that's one of those things where just a little discernment on the scenario. Like
Right.
maybe in this situation you wouldn't do that, but in a band it's great.
Right,
Or something.
right,
But,
yeah. Talk more about like that energy growth and where you, like what you like to hear and what parts of the songs and such.
Yeah, so kind of a general rule that would apply both to solos and to the vocals is less is more when there's like a focal thing happening. Like if someone's singing the words to the song, don't be over there just wiki whacking away, like and cluttering everything up.
Right.
But at the end of the line, 9-pound hammer is a little too heavy
Ba-ba-ba-bum.
for my. Yeah, you have a space there for a little something if you want.
Yeah.
And even those, you don't have to always fill that.
Exactly.
But, there are certainly moments where I would say even especially like between a verse and a chorus, or at the end of a chorus before a solo, or at the end of a solo coming back into a verse, those are moments where the band kind of energizes up together in anticipation of what's coming next.
Yeah.
Let's
Let me try to sing. I'm getting over a cold. Let me try to sing a verse of 9-pound hammer.
Okay.
And what I want you to do is do those Tony type rhythm swells after each vocal line.
Okay.
Okay. And then what I'm going to try to do is match you on at least one or two of those.
Sure.
Okay. So what I mean by that rhythm, there's a 9-pound hammer. He'll kind of pop his rhythm out.
Right.
And sometimes it sounds really good for a mandolin to come in and kind of mimic that with you.
Right, yeah. It just shows, in situations like that, it shows continuity with the band. It's like there's a hive mind thing going on.
Yeah,
So.
I'm going to try this. 1, 2, there's a 9-pound hammer. It's a little too heavy for my side. But for my side.
Sometimes that's cool. Just like we just intuitively both hammered pretty hard on the backbeat and left the space.
That's right.
And it's like a feeling, you know. That's really the thing. It's feeling. And,
exactly. Yeah. I think if we could summarize the whole lesson into 2 points, it would be less is more, with the backbeat being so important for mandolin. And then number 2 would be to listen to what your other rhythm, namely the guitar, is doing, and maybe try to talk with it at times.
Yes, yeah.
In between vocal phrases and such. And if somebody's soloing, just provide a backbeat.
Yeah.
Provide a backbeat.
Yeah. And there are times when you're providing a backbeat, and especially like on a banjo solo. Like a banjo, that's where the solos can really get energized, in my opinion, in a bluegrass band. And so, if the banjo starts hammering into those blues notes and kind of that repetitive ching, 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 those syncopation things, that's when it's kind of free reign for the whole band to just go with that.
You're right.
But as quick as you are to fill in and do that, be just as discerning to reel back so there's reference,
Right.
You can't just, if you do something that's neat, like syncopation rhythm wise, you're kind of doing something a little different out of the norm in this spot. If you don't reel it back to what it's standardized to be, you lose any effect you had,
Yeah. Lose the reference point.
Yeah. It's like, a relative. It's nice when they visit, but it's not when they visit too long.
Cousin Eddie.
Yeah.
Time to go home.
Eddie. Yeah, right.
Well, thanks, Jake. That was really helpful for me to hear it from your perspective there. Makes me want to be a better listening mandolin rhythmist and provide good, clear chops. And I'm loving this bourgeois mandolin, man. These things are incredible.
Yeah.
We just started carrying these.
We did. These are great instruments. Yeah. Yeah, and at the end of the day, I think if just these very basic principles, less is more, focus on the backbeat, listen to the tempo of the song, and don't be too heavy with your information if it's a quick stay light and snappy.
Yeah.
That's just going to let the band operate more easily. And that's what it comes down to. The people that are the most fun to play with are the people that are the easiest to play with.
Yeah.
And the people that are the easiest, like that make you feel like you can play well with them, they're generally a less is more player,
It's just like conversations. You don't like talking to people that won't let you talk.
Yeah, right.
Or that you can tell whenever you're talking to somebody and they're just waiting to say what they're going to say next, and they're waiting for the slightest little break in your sentence for you to take a breath for them to talk.
Say something that's not even relative to what you're talking about.
And you're like, gosh, I really don't like talking to that guy. It was the same thing happens in music.
Yeah.
I think too that if you find yourself playing rhythm and thinking, where can I go lighter? You're probably approaching it from the wrong end.
Sure.
I think it'd be better to start light, start simple, I should say. It doesn't mean you have to play light.
Right.
But start simple, meaning just have 1, 2, 3, 4.
Right.
And then ask the question, where do I have freedom to add?
Right. That's your autopilot.
That should
like
be
that's the part
autopilot.
you don't think about.
Right.
And all you have to think about are those moments where you'll gel and interact
Yeah.
in a neat way.
But if you're playing if you're a mandolin rhythm player, you're like, oh man, am I playing too heavy? Where could I scale it back? You're asking the wrong question.
Right. You've already started from a failing position.
Your question should always be, where would it be tasty for me to add something more than just the 2 and the 4?
Mm-hmm.
I think that's always a good way to view it, good angle to be looking from.
Right. Yeah. Because if like you said, if that's your kind of predisposition to the whole situation, you're already doing the thing you should do most of the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
It's kind of like what you said earlier reminded me of something my dad used to say, talking about playing with people as a relational, almost friendship. And the more you get to know someone, the more you can anticipate what they're going to say next and compliment them. And my dad used to say that you can make far more friends being interested than trying to be interesting.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so I think that translates to music well too, because it's like
Yes.
you're trying to support what everyone else is doing.
Man, that's a good point. My wife, everybody loves Hannah. They love to talk with her. And one of the reasons why, and this is one of the things that attracted me to her first, was she always asks questions.
Right.
She's always interested in what you're doing. And the same thing is true in music. If you can make the other person feel like you're interested in what they're doing, it's going to draw it out of them.
Right, exactly. That's where the music gets good, because they can rely on you to be there, while maybe they try that thing that if things weren't gelling quite well would be hard to pull off.
I think we've given these people way more than they bargained for this lesson. And that needs to be a whole other discussion.
Yeah, put in another quarter and you can play the second half.
All right, hope y'all enjoyed this. I do have mandolin rhythm lessons on the site too, just talking more about how to play that chop, getting a good chop sound and such, so you can go search those out. But this is more of a theoretical approach discussion to what you would play as a mandolin player from a guitar player's perspective, which is kind of your buddy on stage, So
yeah, I think it all starts there. I think it starts in the mind, right?
Yep.
It's a thought exercise, and then from there you can put it into practice.
Very good. Thanks, Jake.
Oh, thank you.
See y'all.